Hello and welcome to another video of the Fifth Vault. Today I have another big patch with a huge sound, and the reason I made this patch was because I'm actually procrastinating. I wanted to spend the weekend learning the Korg wave state, which is an amazing synthesizer which can do so many things, but because I learned synthesis on the A Modular, this architecture is so different. And I really have a frustrating time to get my head around it. So because I got stuck, I thought, let's go back to this guy. And the idea was that I patched something on the Wavefolder, and I wanted to understand more how that looks like. And I have a little oscilloscope over here that shows me the waveforms. And as I was playing around with the Wavefolder and the different distortions it can do, things got out of hand. I patched more and more as it happens, and that created this patch. And I must say, I'm always surprised and amazed by the huge sound that is coming out of this little A modular system. So I hope you enjoy the performance. After the performance, I will go into detail on how this patch works, so that if you're just starting out in synthesis or with the A modular, you get an idea of what are the patterns that you can use to create music. I hope you enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. So this patch came about because I wanted to play with the Wavefolder, which is this module over here, which you can't see very well because it's hidden behind so many cables. The Wavefolder takes a wave and folds it back on itself and changes the frequencies that you're getting and makes it more interesting. So what I've done was I'm taking the triangle wave from the VCO. Because it's a little bit low, I take it into the signal amp up the top here, amplifying the signal a bit and then taking it into the Wavefolder. The beauty of that is that I can actually create more interesting distortions by driving it into the red if I wanted to, even more than the Wavefolder can through the drive knob. Then I was playing around with the Wavefolder and I wanted to see how the Wavefolder looks changes the waveform. So I attached an oscilloscope, the whole thing. So I'm using this little guy here, the Dsl Oscilloscope. So I bought this as a DIY kit and I built it myself. I was really chuffed when, there's a few SMD components on here, and was one of my very first soldering projects, and I was really happy that it worked. So this little guy here will show me first up on this channel the original waveform of a triangle wave. So let's turn that up. So you can see a beautiful triangle wave. So really, really clean. And then on this other channel, I'm getting the output of the Wavefolder. So let's add that to it. Already you can hear a few more harmonics being generated. And the waveform becomes more interesting. So if I take away the original triangle wave, then we'll see what the Wavefolder is doing. Now you could see that that waveform was moving, and it was moving because I'm using an LFO, this guy here, and I'm changing the wave shape with an LFO. And this gives it a little bit of moving things. In Modular, because you have everything patchable and you have those LFOs and the envelopes, all these modulation sources, you want to modulate as much as you can to get motion and changes into your sound, to not having it been too static. So when you just listen to it, it's already a more interesting sound than just the plain triangle form. So this is pretty static, nothing's happening. And here you have harmonics, change, kind of a rhythm through the pulsing, so it's more interesting. So when we have a look at that, and then I'm taking the output of the Wavefolder and putting it into a filter, and the filter again is modulated with another LFO, I get more interesting things because I can add resonance to it. So let's see how that looks like. So you could see that the filter is rounding off the edges, and but then through the resonance is adding a lot of smaller curves into the waveform and giving it a much richer architecture, I guess, or richer harmonics, and makes it more interesting, I think. And then, of course, because I have them on 3 different channels, I can blend them. So I can take the round shape of the filter, and now I can add the original triangle wave. And the original output of the Wavefolder. I really like the way the resonance works on all those filters in the A modular system. So I'm always trying to find sounds where I'm just riding the resonance in a way that is acceptable and sounds beautiful and not too shrill, except for the null filter. The null filter actually works best when you just crank it up and let it scream. But the Wasp and the state variable filters have such a beautiful resonance when you just drive it just close to the edge of where it becomes too much. So having the CV control and an LFO to modulate it, it's really nice. So there are a lot more things going on in this patch, and one thing is this beautiful sound that I made. So this sound, which is only ever triggered by the 8th step on the step sequencer down here, is coming from the MS-20 filter. The MS-20 filter is a really interesting one because you can hardly use the incoming signal for anything because the MS-20 filter is changing it so much that what you hear is really just that filter. And getting the frequency and the resonance, if you balance them out, you can get so many different beautiful sounds. In this case, the frequency is modulated by this envelope, as you can see here. And if I just change that a little tiny bit, for instance, changing the CV amount, or changing the resonance, you can see that that's already too much. The MS-20 filter works best if you have the multi-effects on a nice reverb. I think it's made to work with the multi-effects, I think. So beautiful. The next sound that I have is on the 4th beat on the step sequencer, and I'm using the Wasp filter for that sound, and that is up here. And the Wasp filter is also driven by an envelope, by this bottom one here. And again, changing the resonance, the frequency and the CV amount changes it dramatically. Another thing that I have going on is that I'm using the sequencer 16, and I'm using this actually in a lot of patches. I'm using it to control the cutoff frequency of this filter. And the input for this filter is just another oscillator that I've patched in at the end here. And with that, I get some really interesting rhythmic sounds. What you can see is on the null filter I have the resonance cranked up almost all the way. So what you can hear is actually this filter being in complete resonance overdrive. And that makes that gritty sound, which it's really, really cool. And it's just short of screaming, but it's I think a really nice gritty quality to it that I use a lot. So here you can see how it all fits together. And it all is happening because of playing around with the resonances on the filter. Now, I've been using the MS-20 filter, the null filter, the Wasp filter, and the SV filter. And there's one other sound where I'm also using the null filter, and I have two. I have another one here at the bottom, which is one of the older ones that doesn't have the wild tamed knob switch. And this one I'm driving really hard as well. You can see the resonance here is pretty much on, and that is driven by the keyboard. The beauty of that is that it gives a really big, gritty sound. So I'm not going into too much of this patch because it's really not about how do I patch each individual cable and what is actually going on with all the different knob positions. It's more about recognizing patterns. And one of the patterns here is using the Wavefolder to create interesting harmonics, modulating it with an LFO. Also using one oscillator to get 3 different types of sounds by using a mixer, to get the original sound, the wavefolded sound, and a filtered wavefolded sound all in the same mixer. And then by attenuating each, you get another waveform completely again. Also, another pattern is using the sequencer not to change the pitch, but to use the voltage controlled outputs of it to change the cutoff frequency of a filter. I'm using that a lot, especially makes really good sense for a rhythmic background. And I'm also using the outputs here to trigger certain things in time. So on the 4th beat, I'm getting the Wasp filter. On the 8th beat, I'm getting the MS-20 filter, for instance. Well, what else is going on? I'm using the other null filter here to create a really gritty sound. I must say the null filter is beautiful, but putting it into the wild resonance and getting this growly sound or screaming sound is where it's really best, I think. I'm also using the drum kit and the kick to create some drums, as you can hear. So you can hear those here. And these are sequenced by the multi-divider. So again, that multi-divider gets the same clock as this LFO, and the LFO is also driving the sequencer, so they're all in the same beat. The beauty of the multi-divider is that you can change the sequence of the kick and the drum kit, like so. We're just changing, using the shift button and rotating the pattern around. It's more fun actually if it's a little bit faster, so this is a very slow pace for that. And as you can see, you can never have too many LFOs in your system. I'm using 1, 2, 3 LFOs. I'm using 2 envelopes for modulation. I'm using all 5 filters in my system, and I hope I will get a few more soon. And I'm using a lot of mixers. So this mixer is almost full, this mixer is full, and this mixer is full. I'm using 3 different mixers. So there you can see that it's so important to having not just sound producing modules, but also modulation sources and mixers. So I hope that was informative. Let me just turn that off. And if you have any questions or ideas on how to improve this, or want to know more detailed things about this patch or about other things, what to do on the A Modular, please leave a comment in the section below. And thank you very, very much for watching.